Well, let's check in with Amber Athey, Washington editor of The Spectator and author of the new book, Snowflakes Revolt, How Woke Millennials Hijacked American Media. Amber, welcome back. Great title of that book. And let's get first to Donald Trump. What are you expecting from tomorrow from the former president's indictment?
Well, it seems like they're not going to be putting the former president in handcuffs, which was something that I think people on both sides of the political aisle were probably anticipating. But he will get fingerprinted, and it's quite likely that he will get a mugshot, which I think we can expect him to plaster on all kinds of campaign merchandise moving forward. But I think the reality is that everyone involved knows that this is a very political prosecution, in the sense that this was something that was not pursued by federal authorities. And this is a case of a misdemeanor being elevated to a felony by that Manhattan DA who has been funded by George Soros. So I don't see this going anywhere in a way that would majorly affect the former president's presidential aspirations in terms of a second term.
Most definitely. And overall, I mean, what do you make of the charges that the former president is facing, charges that he denies any wrongdoing?
Right. I mean, the crux of it is that he allegedly made a hush money payment in terms of a reimbursement to his lawyer, Michael Cohen. But we have basically a person who's not very credible. Michael Cohen, of course, serving as Trump's attorney, but has already had his own attorney sign a document in the past stating that Michael Cohen was never personally reimbursed by the former president for this payment to Stormy Daniels, and that the former president didn't know anything about it. So the prosecution is going to have to make the case that Michael Cohen was lying then in this prior sworn affidavit, but not lying now. And that's a difficult thing to convince a jury of.
And as Owen Jensen mentioned, the money is already coming in as a result of this indictment. What effect do you think it'll have in the 2024 election?
I think it's going to have a huge effect. He's already raised about $4 million since news came down that he was going to be indicted for this hush money payment. Those charges are still sealed, by the way, so we don't know exactly how many or what he's facing. But this is something that plays right into the narrative that Trump has been pushing to the American people, and particularly his base, since 2015, which is that he is an outsider and he is someone who is willing to stand up for them. He once said, with a lot of prescience, I think, which is that the government is not after him, they're after you, and he's just standing in the way. So this only gives further credence to that claim.
Well, let's switch gears a bit about the wake of the deadly shooting that took place at a Christian school in Tennessee last week by a transgender person. And the White House released a statement saying in part that conservatives were, quote, targeting and hurting transgender people. What's your take on this?
I think it's no surprise, unfortunately, that someone who is gender confused might think that it was appropriate to target conservative Christians after the rhetoric that's been coming out of the left in the White House for the past year. You have LGBTQ advocacy groups going with the narrative that conservatives are participating in a genocide against transgender people by simply calling into question the treatment for gender dysphoria that ascribes sex change surgeries and hormone treatments for even minors. And Biden's response to this shooting has been to completely ignore the victims and their families, and instead give more credence to the idea that the trans community are the real victims of this.
And before we let you go, we want to talk a little bit about your new book. Where can people find it, and talk to us about these? Just a great title there. That's wonderful.
Thank you. Yes, the Snowflakes Revolt is all about how the woke millennials that we saw causing all kinds of chaos on college campuses over the past decade didn't enter the real world and melt. Instead, they've taken over major American institutions, particularly the mainstream media, and pushed them further to the left than ever before. And that book is available now at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Bookshop, and pretty much wherever you buy your books.
And actually, not only them, also social media. We're seeing what's happening up on Capitol Hill with a number of lawmakers wanting to take away Title 230 away from a lot of these social media companies because they are literally taking away conservative talk, are they not?
That's exactly right. Free speech is under attack by the woke left because they believe that speech that differs from theirs is literally violence. And so their response is merely self-defense. That's how the left has justified the violence that you see from groups like Antifa, and even justified this Nashville shooting that took place last week. We're seeing this in Hollywood as well, whether it's at Disney or Netflix. Wokeness has really invaded pretty much every part of American life, and it's going to take adults in the room with courage to stand up to it and fight back.
Amber Athey, always a pleasure to speak with you again. Washington editor at the Spectator and author of the new book, Snowflakes Revolt, How Woke Millennials Hijacked American Media. Thanks again.
Thank you.